So it is said that every 72 minutes a person is diagnosed with blood cancer in South Africa, and there are serious shortages of blood stem cell donors among some racial groups in the country. This has inspired the HASHTAG Sabelo awareness campaign and DKMS Africa to join hands in raising awareness on blood cancer-related challenges. Newzroom Africa's Ziniko Mhlaba is following developments for us from Centurion. What can you tell us about what's happening at this hour, at least?
Well, what's happening at this point, Duduzile, we just listened to very, very inspiring words of messages from people who had a very, very long journey with issues relating to blood cancer. And actually right now I'm about to speak to Babala, who had two children, or who has two children who are actually survivors of the very same condition we're speaking to. So let me not waste any more of the time. Let me just bring her into this conversation. Sisi, you just got off the stage. Very, very inspiring story. Can you tell us briefly how long it took you to ensure that your two precious angels do survive, but also maybe take us back, how did you identify, how did you know that now this is a serious problem, I've got a cancer situation in my household?
Thank you, Beauty. Our journey started in 2017 when my daughter was diagnosed with Fanconi anemia. What that means is it means the bone marrow is not working, and the only way to correct that is through a stem cell transplant. So that was the case for both my children, a 13-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son. What had to happen, how I noticed is my daughter just started having nosebleeds, which was said to be normal, but then she was also tired. It was then that I took her to the doctor because there was abnormal fatigue and nosebleeds, and then after the tests it was confirmed that she had aplastic anemia. And it's been a tough journey, I must admit, but what I want to just raise is to the parents, and not just parents because this is for young and old, but for everybody out there to just be aware, always pay attention, and drive the awareness and try to catch it as early as possible. Don't ignore the signs. And luckily for us, we went through the stem cell transplant last year with my daughter, and we are going again later this year for my son's stem cell transplant. That would not have been possible if it wasn't of unrelated donors who came through organizations such as DKMS to register to become donors. That's how we could find a match.
I mean, Sisi, speaking about your young children here, they were both under 12 years when you guys identified and saw that this is a problem. How taxing was that financially and emotionally for you as parents, but also for them as young kids?
It's a good question to ask. It is very taxing. Emotionally, as a parent, you look at your children and you realize that life is not really the same. We try to make it as normal as possible, but in actual sense, it's not normal. We have to restrain them from contact sports. So my son can't play soccer, can't do anything that could lead to accidents because they bruise easily, they bleed easily, and we do not want them to bleed. Financially, there are bills. Medical bills don't come cheap. But what I want to really stress out is the misunderstandings within our communities, especially our African people, and I say this with utmost respect. We need to drive awareness because when it started, I wasn't aware. It was the first time I hear about aplastic anemia. So telling people, all people have sorts of thinking and myths, and there's so trying to find that balance and trying to be emotionally subtle, it's quite a challenge. But when you drive such awareness, you talk to people, people get to understand and you can converse. But above all, you can get people to start coming out to register because it's DNA related. So you need an ethnic group really that is similar to you, with a DNA that's similar to you for a donor or for a match and a patient to be able to go through the transplant.
Just the last question, my sister. I mean, obviously, we are speaking about the lack lack of information people are lacking on the ground, but also from your own experience, what do you think needs to be done to bridge that gap, to ensure that authorities such as government, Department of Health, do reach out and do get to the places where our most communities are based, especially in black townships and rural areas? So what do you think is the missing link then? What can be done to close those gaps so that people are aware about these conditions and the symptoms? You were mentioning the issue of bleeding, which can be seen as normal in our black community, but it can be a serious illness such as cancer. So what can be done?
For me, importantly, is to have drives. Let's have drives, let's have initiatives like this one today, where we also have people coming out to talk about their stories. Because to be honest, when it started, some people still told me that, that's white people's illness. So it was really saddening for me to say we need to drive awareness. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about it at the events. Let's talk about it on our radios, any kind of media platforms that are available out there. And you as well. I think you are playing your part. But we need to increase in making such events accessible to our people. I think it's through drives and campaigns that we can be able to send the information out there.
Thank
you.
Sabelo there just sharing with us her own journey, alluding to the fact that her two children who are under 12 years old were diagnosed with blood cancer at a very, very tender age. But good news are both of them have identified and found donors, and they'll be going through those medical processes. So that's the situation. It's been a very, very informative and very, very inspiring story. But what's coming out of this session, of this campaign, is that people need to read more about cancer and the symptoms and act as early as possible. That's it from us at this point. Back to you in studio.
Ziniko, Mhlaba, thank you.